The ocean was silent, but not empty. For centuries, people believed that beyond the vast Atlantic Ocean, there was nothing, just endless water leading to the edge of the world. Maps ended in darkness. Stories warned of sea monsters, storms, and ships that vanished without a trace. And yet, something was out there. Long before the name America ever existed, the land we now call the United States was already alive. Forests stretched endlessly, rivers carved through mountains, and millions of Native Americans had built thriving civilizations, each with its own culture, language, and history. But to the rest of the world, this land was invisible. So how was the USA discovered, and by whom? The answer is not as simple as one name or one journey. It begins over 1,000 years ago in the cold, harsh lands of Scandinavia. Around the year 1000, a Norse explorer named Leif Erikson set sail west from Greenland. His ship cut through icy waters, driven by curiosity and courage. After days at sea, he reached a strange new land, covered in forests and wild grapes. He called it Vinland. For a brief moment in history, the Vikings had reached North America nearly 500 years before anyone else from Europe. But their settlements didn't last. Conflicts, distance, and harsh conditions forced them to leave, and over time, their discovery faded into legend. The world forgot. Centuries passed. Europe changed. Kingdoms rose and fell. Trade routes became lifelines of wealth and power. But there was a problem. Spices, silk, and riches from Asia were incredibly valuable, and the land routes were dangerous and controlled by powerful empires. Europe needed a new way. And then came a man with a bold, almost impossible idea. Christopher Columbus believed that instead of going east to reach Asia, he could sail west. Many thought he was wrong. Some believed he would fall off the edge of the world. But Columbus was determined. In 1492, backed by Spain, he set sail with 3 ships, the Niña, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. Weeks passed. The crew grew restless. Fear crept in. There was no land in sight, only endless ocean. Some sailors even threatened mutiny, but Columbus refused to turn back. And then, land. On October 12, 1492, they reached an island in the Caribbean. Columbus believed he had reached Asia. He had no idea that he had stumbled upon an entirely different continent. But here's the truth most people don't realize. Columbus never set foot on the land that is now the United States. His journey opened the door, but the story didn't end there. In fact, it had only just begun. News spread across Europe like wildfire. A new world had been found. Soon, explorers from Spain, France, and England began crossing the Atlantic, each driven by power, wealth, and ambition. In 1497, an Italian explorer named John Cabot, sailing for England, reached the coasts of North America, likely parts of modern-day Canada. His voyage gave England a claim to these lands. Then came the Spanish explorers, searching not just for land, but for gold. Names like Hernán Cortés and Francisco Pizarro would become infamous for their conquests in the Americas, though mostly in Central and South America. But further north, the land remained largely unexplored by Europeans until the early 1600s. In 1607, a group of English settlers arrived on the eastern coast of North America. They established Jamestown, the first permanent English colony in what would later become the United States. Life there was brutal. Disease spread quickly, food was scarce. Conflicts with Native American tribes created constant tension. Many settlers didn't survive the first few years. But slowly, the colony endured. More ships arrived. More settlements formed. In 1620, another group of settlers, known as the Pilgrims, landed at Plymouth. They were seeking religious freedom, a place where they could live according to their beliefs. Their survival depended heavily on the help of Native Americans, who taught them how to farm and live off the land. These early moments are often remembered as the discovery of America. But here's the deeper truth. The land was never empty. Millions of Native Americans had lived there for thousands of years. Complex societies like the Iroquois Confederacy had political systems. The Mississippian culture built massive earthenwork cities. Tribes across the continent had deep knowledge of nature, survival, and community. So when Europeans arrived, it wasn't a discovery, it was a collision of worlds. And that collision changed everything. Diseases brought by Europeans, like smallpox, spread rapidly among native populations who had no immunity. Entire communities were wiped out. At the same time, European settlers continued to expand, claiming land, building colonies, and pushing further inland. The map of the world was being redrawn. By the 1700s, 13 English colonies had been established along the eastern coast. These colonies would eventually unite, fight for independence, and form the United States of America in 1776. But the question still lingers. Who truly discovered the USA? Was it Leif Erikson, who arrived first but was forgotten? Was it Columbus, who opened the gateway but never saw the mainland? Was it the explorers and settlers who built colonies? Or was it the Native Americans who had always been there? The truth is, discovery depends on perspective. For Europe, it was a new world. For those already living there, it was the beginning of a long and painful transformation. History often simplifies things. It gives us names, dates, and events. But behind those facts are real stories of courage, curiosity, conflict, and survival. The discovery of the USA wasn't a single moment. It was a series of journeys, a chain of decisions, a meeting of civilizations, and a story that still echoes today. Because the land didn't suddenly appear in 1492. It had always been there, waiting, living, breathing. It wasn't discovered. It was found by those who didn't know it already existed. And that changes everything.